Dive into the dynamic world of entrepreneurship, innovation, and business with Caplander, hosted by Jody and Morgan of J. Thielander Consulting. Whether you're invested in the private capital markets, building your own venture, or curious about the entrepreneurial spirit, this podcast unpacks the latest trends, insights, and opportunities shaping today's market and the people driving what's next. Caplander connects the dots between personal and professional life because how you do anything is how you do everything. Featuring expert guests, deep discussions, and a dynamic mother-daughter duo, Caplander is your go-to resource for staying informed and inspired.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Caplander podcast. I am Jody Thielander, and again, here solo because I've just spent the last week with Morgan and her new daughter, who is now 10 days old, my granddaughter. So that's very exciting. We have a new associate here at the Team Thielander, Caplander. So I was reading while I was sitting with the baby, this whole opinion article in the Wall Street Journal about the happiness industrial complex. And it really made me think about our guest today and the company that she's built and her family and the balancing of trying to get exercise in and her health issues. And so I thought I would sort of delve into the little bit of the happiness factor and how that really goes to people's career and success. And what that means today versus maybe what it's meant in other generations. So the part that I thought that was sort of interesting, and I don't know if anybody has seen, there's apparently a show on Netflix. Generation Z has been trained to be offended, claim victimhood, and feel unhappy. This is from this Wall Street Journal opinion article. And apparently there is a Netflix comedy called Big Mistakes. And the character played by baby boomer Laurie Metcalf asks her Gen Z daughter, how can your generation be offended by anything when you're offended by everything? I never had time to be offended. She adds, there was no such thing as self-care back then. A strong woman was every woman who got the job done and had a minute at the end of the day for a glass of red wine. So with that, we have our guest today, Lindsay, who is a co-founder of AVANT Collective, and she's going to share with us how she built this business and also in the midst of all of this, how she is trying to find balance with her health and fitness. And this is a female-founded consumer product company, and it's based out of Seattle. Had the pleasure with meeting Lindsay in Seattle and also seeing her offices. And AVANT creates high-performing plant-based cleaning products in countertop-worthy packaging. AVANT Collective was born out of the near constant demand for cleaning up after kids and pets, but wanting the products to be non-toxic, highly effective, and merge our modern home interiors and styles with the products we use on a daily basis. And Lindsay's actually taken AVANT one step further with her partner, and that they've made the packaging all very bougie and high end. So not only does it clean and work, but it also has, a nice curb appeal. And so with that, on the happiness factor, I think it's a very interesting time to see how people are thinking about work and going into offices or trying to have balance by going to work in offices sometimes and working from home. And as I just witnessed this with Morgan, my daughter, juggling a baby and nursing and trying to keep work flowing, that it's never easy. And really from what I heard in this article, which I also just wanted to reference, I thought for those of you who are listening to podcasts, if you've come across Mel Robbins, a best-selling author and personal growth expert, she tells us she has that quintessential, I boil happiness down to let them and let me, meaning the more time you spend trying to control what you can't, the less happy you become. Stop controlling others' behavior and put your energy back where happiness is actually created in your own choices, your own relationships, and your own life. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay. We're so glad to have her here today. And I think she has created a very high level of happiness in addition to a very successful business.
Hello, Lindsay. Welcome to the Caplander podcast.
Hi, ladies. Nice to see you.
We're so excited to have you join us. Jody and I were talking. We're trying to think, how many years ago was it when we first met you in Seattle?
You guys, it has to have been at least maybe 3 years?
Longer. It was before COVID.
Okay, so then it was before we launched.
Oh, yeah, it was before COVID. So it has to be like 5-6 years.
Wow. That is That's a while.
So for those folks that are for our great audience that does not know you other than your intro, why don't you fill us in?
Yeah. So my name is Lindsay Droz. I'm the co-founder of Levant Collective. I have a business partner. Her name is Christy Lord. And we started Levant Collective a little over, 5 years ago now. It was right. COVID started and we had been working on Levant for about 3 years prior to that. So a lot of people always ask, did you start Levant because of COVID? And it just happened to be that we launched it midway through COVID. But yeah, we launched and we create premium home care products for the home. So think laundry detergent, premium laundry detergent, premium dish soap, multi-purpose spray. And the premium comes through not only performance, but through the fragrance and the experience in our products. And oh, by the way, these products are also plant-based. So we created this line of products that are good for the home, good for the family, good for the earth. But we really are known for it being in the premium space, and it just looks bougie, it feels bougie, and just makes you feel good to overall clean.
Okay, so it took you 3 years to develop Levant, where I obviously sleuthed around you. I stalked you really online, and it
Where did
sounds
you
like
learn those skills, Morgan? Your stalking skills.
I have grade A stalker skills, and I learned
Love
that one from my mother.
I love you both.
So you have children, and it sounds like when you were at home with babies and you were reading cleaning products online, that's how you had the ideas of like, okay, why is this not safe for dog paws? So if it's not safe for dog paws, why would it be safe for a crawling baby? So you have this idea, and then what happened from there?
Yeah. Ultimately, both Christy and I, my business partner and I, we did not have a background in chemistry. I came from the world of medical device sales and leadership, and she came from the world of finance. And what we didn't want to do if we were going to leave our careers, that we both were lucrative earners, and we really enjoyed our careers. We were great at them. If we were going to leave that and do this full time, we had to have formulations that actually worked. So it couldn't be just Christy and I thinking of DIYing some stuff from Pinterest and making it smell good. And, we tried to macerate vinegar, and come to find out you cannot get that smell out of vinegar. So what we needed was a chemist, and we needed the best chemist that we could actually find. So getting back to stalking and why I love you both, I stalked the web for finding a green chemist. At the time, there were not that many of them that had focused on green, natural products and chemistry. And I found this one who came from the world's leading cleaning brand, and I stalked her for 2 years. I said, here's what we want to do. We want to make premium home care products that are plant-based, but that work as well as conventional. Is it possible? And she didn't get back to me for probably 5 messages. And finally, one day she got back to me. She said, I am not interested. Like, oh, good. You're alive. This is great. This is
when
something.
You left her messages, were you texting, emailing, calling?
It was LinkedIn and it was email. So there was an email contact on there. And then she had a web page as well. So I went through her web page, and she just wasn't getting back to me until she finally did one day. And so I happened to be out in Boston, and I said, I'm going to drive out to Vermont on my day off on a Saturday. I know you live out there. Please just meet me for a cup of coffee. And I promise, if you don't like me or don't like what I have to say, I will leave you alone. I will stop harassing you because I know it's getting borderline scary. And she showed up for coffee. And to this day, she's still our chemist. So essentially, we had this chemist who has done this before for a massive brand, a couple brands, and then she knew how to hold our hand to development. So she developed all of our IP. So we own all of our formulations. We didn't white label those products. We had to learn about fragrance, how to get fragrance into our products. We had to learn about manufacturing. Where do we go for manufacturing? Oh, then we had to learn about packaging. So all these different things that Christy and I were learning on our own, we were able to put it all together with the handheld of her. And that just opened up our door for us to, take it to the next steps. And, at first we could really only afford to do small batches. And when I say small batches, I mean like 2,000 runs at a time, or MOQs. But the minimum order quantities, or the MOQs for these manufacturers, were typically around 5,000 at bare minimum. Right. So if I wanted hand soap, I needed to order 5,000 of them. So I think just having her at the helm really had those suppliers trust us and allowed us to start out small. And
because
then
of her brand recognition.
Correct.
Well, I have a couple questions. Having done this myself, first of all, you did it with a partner. And how did that go? How did the partnership go? Because you run a lot of partnerships. You've got a husband, now you've got a partner in business. You also have a family.
Yeah.
So you obviously are better than I am as a partner. Run my business by myself.
Yeah.
I basically live by myself, and I am not a suitable partner in many levels. I'm better at being a directive.
Yeah. Well, what's healthy about that is that you know that about yourself. And I think that's the number one decision that you need to make when going into a business is what do you know about yourself and what are your limitations? And for me, my limitations were some formats of operations. I knew I'm a creative. I'm a strategist. I'm a big thinker and I think really big. I need someone to actually have an operational background that could get us to that big point. I don't need them to believe because guess what? I'll make it happen. But I needed someone to be able to get us there. And Christy was the same way. She needed someone to think big and think bigger and stretch. And so we both needed to have that equal opposite. And it was the single best decision that I made in this business was choosing Christy as a partner because she is my equal opposite. And what
How
that
did you two meet?
we met at a wedding. So ironically, our husbands were fraternity brothers, and I knew her husband in college. So her husband, Eric, who was my husband's fraternity brother, I absolutely loved him in college. And I always wondered, who did this guy marry? And I heard that he married this kick-ass woman who was so smart and I was like, I just need to meet her. And ironically, we were at one of the fraternity brothers' weddings and our bellies met each other. And essentially I was 9 months pregnant. She was 8 months pregnant. We were both with our first and we were so annoyed at our husbands. And so because they were so, they had a few too many at this college fraternity party basically. And we just clicked. And then we went through parenthood together. And through those nights of parenthood, the first time you don't know what you're doing, Morgan, you're in this space right now. There's no book for it. You learn on your own and you learn through your friends and your experience. And so we learned together and it was so enjoyable. So we really wanted to do something together. We both wanted to start a company. And, for us, it was many wine-filled nights of figuring out what were our joint passions. And there were a few, but this is the one, plant-based cleaners that could work as well as conventional. We kept coming back to. We're like, we can do it better than what's currently on the market.
What is currently on the market? What is the sort of competition in this space?
At the time, it was Mrs. Meyer's, Method, and Seventh Generation. That was really it.
That's what I was thinking ahead of time because there's really, when you say the word plant-based, there's only so many options at that point.
Totally.
So is that where the woman came from? Was Seventh Generation? Was she in Vermont?
She came from one of those. Yes. Yeah. So one of those three for sure. And what was interesting about it is that the problem in the market was not that we didn't have these products available to us. The problem was that they didn't work as well as your conventional products. So
and also, like you said, they weren't considered premium brands. They were more.
That was the total other problem. The first problem was they didn't work as well as Dawn and Tide. So if they're not going to work, we're always going to go back to those products because you ultimately want it to work. So that's the first thing, like get them work well. The premium part actually came a little bit later in our genesis because our prices were so high. So we didn't want to do the traditional packaging, which was just this ugly plastic bottle that is not refillable.
Right. I love your packaging because it sits on my counter and I love it. I think it's very bougie. And people always ask me, what is this?
Yeah. And that's the genesis. We wanted it to look beautiful, but in order to do that, those products cost a lot of money. So premium didn't exist before we came on board. Maybe Laundress, I would say, but they weren't really in a premium packaging at the time, but they weren't really well known at that time either when we started.
No. And they were kind of more focused only on laundry. It wasn't anything about like actually cleaning your house. The effectiveness piece is really, I think, interesting because the reality is if you're going to take the time or the money to have your home cleaned, then you want it to be effective because you're not doing it for fun. You're doing it because you care about how your space is.
Right.
And I think that's also then you look at like another premium brand like an Aesop in terms of how it looks sitting on the counter and you really are essentially the cleaning version of that.
Right. And so it's that marrying that idea of something that's good for you, that's effective, but that it's premium and it works and it smells and it makes you feel so good. And it sits on the counter and you're like, that makes me feel good just looking at it.
Right. I have to say I have I have ASOP in my home, in my guest bathroom in particular. But when we moved into our house, I bought all the containers. And then in the kitchen, I realized I was going through the hand soap too quickly. So now I have kept the same container and I do buy another brand and I refill it because I like the way it looks on the counter, but I go through it too quickly, but I like the bottle.
Bad.
I do. You can at me all day
Girl,
long.
I gotta get you we gotta get you some AVANT and we'll get you some refills as well.
Yes. I have a question from the beginning piece. Did you bootstrap in the beginning? Like, did you raise any outside capital to begin with? Or did you were pooling from both of because you said that you both had lucrative careers beforehand. So did you keep working while you were in development?
We didn't. So while we were in development, yes. On the back end, yes, we did. So we were we were working 80 hours a week.
You were working nights and weekends and everything else.
Nights, weekends, it was everything. And so we did do that in development phase because there wasn't much we could do. It was really at that point, we were paying our outside vendors to do that. We had a branding person. We had someone who was doing all of our formulations. We had our contract manufacturer. So there wasn't a whole lot.
Until you had product, you couldn't.
Correct. Right. Until we actually had a physical product. Yeah. So, but going back to the bootstrapping. So yes, Christy and I did bootstrap it until we launched. So it was about 6 months into our launch that we decided, all right, this has got legs. People are buying these products. They're coming back and repeating buying these products. And we have this opportunity to have a highly repeatable, great margin business, but we needed more capital to fund to get that word out there because in the beginning, and we'll say this to every day, that the Seattle community put us on the map. They were our friends, our families, our own network that continued to buy and gift our products and send these products throughout the nation. That's really where the legs started. But we needed more money to be able to afford that growth funding, which was through advertisement and type of marketing.
It's wild how much all that costs. And you realize it's not a one-shot deal. It's endless, the marketing. And now it's turned into the social media and the whole AI marketing. And it's just endless, the placement.
Endless. Right. And it's endless the amount of money you can spend too. So we spent so much money leading up to it that once we had our first, round of sales, that money just went back into rebuying more products. There wasn't any money to do really much else other than refill the products that we had just sold. So that's why we ended up going and doing a small raise. It was friends and family.
Right. So you don't have a board, or do you have to report to other people here, or you still maintained your independence?
We maintained. So Christy and I still own the company, and we did a convertible note at the time to friends and family, which were truly friends and family that gave us money and believed in this idea, and did that raise initially, and that lasted us for about 2.5 years because we're very frugal, and we don't spend a ton of money. We weren't paying ourselves at that time.
That was actually going to be my next question. You can't hate us for this since we work in the compensation business. So how did you work the compensation for you? And then you said you hired this sort of badass. So how did you figure out your comp strategy? Have you given other people equity, or what's the structure?
Yeah, so we did, comp strategy was really, it was just by what we could afford at the time. So once we were able to get eke some profit out of it, Christy and I started paying us, let's call it $20,000. I don't remember what our first thing was. It wasn't much. It could cover maybe some property taxes. But that was hard our first couple of years because we went from being equal earners in our home to now, we just got cut off by half. So, from a family side of things, trying to just budget that new lifestyle in for both of us, that was challenging. But it started by the people that we brought on board at first were really a lot of moms that were, I've always heard that saying, it's so true that if you want shit done, hire a mom.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, exactly. And
they'll squeeze more in and they'll be very efficient, and it's not done on a per minute or per hour basis or per day. It's just efficiency. Here's the task and here's what I'm going to pay you to do.
Exactly. And so we hired a lot of GSD people, get shit done people. And those were the moms. And so, if they could only work 20 hours a week, that's what we hired them for.
Yeah.
20 hours. So just, there was one employee that she was at Nordstrom for 15 years and went away to raise her kids and was home maybe for, let's call it 8 years. And she could not get hired back to save her life. And she was so
Right.
talented. So just, those were the people that we brought on board. And then in what we could afford at the time, and we just piecemealed that together until we got to, a certain amount of revenue. I think that first couple million mark revenue is when we started bringing on a little bit more of the professional hire. And then we're still to this day doing that one after
And so
one.
do you give a mix of cash and equity, or what's the
We
incentive?
have not given anything at this point. We do have it written into some contracts, but I don't know if I can discuss that on live, but
It's okay.
it is broken. It is in the cap table. Yes, we have a certain amount set aside on the cap table to be able to do that.
Right.
Ultimately in the end, because we haven't converted, we haven't done that yet.
And how did it change, or how did it affect the dynamic at home where you and your husband were equal earners and you were a contributor, and all of a sudden you're at a deficit? I feel like that can sometimes change how the balance of power in your house, or how you feel as an equal partner. What was the deal with that?
That's such a good question. I think you've met Christy before, but you know me and know that I'm not a wallflower. So I wasn't a wallflower when I made money, and I'm not a wallflower when I don't make any money. So the dynamic kind of stayed the same that way. I think to our husbands though, it just put more pressure on them a little bit, that you got to keep your job and you got to, keep doing what you're doing. And, unfortunately my husband lost his job maybe about a year or so into this. He was a high executive, and one of the new CEO came in one of their companies and just wiped out the entire executive board. And that's hard for a white male who's making a good amount of money to go and replace that. But ultimately he's so talented, he was fine. But it's hard. It's not easy. And
That's why
That
you
makes
better love
me
that
anxious just
person.
to hear it.
You better love that person and be married and happy, or whomever,
yeah.
even if you're not married,
And they have to
because
love us, because we are, now we are away more so than we were before. We're working 10 times more even than we were before. Christy and I have been gone for the last 3 weeks. We have not been home. And so these partners have to be okay with that. And they have been, and they've just been the biggest rock for both Christy and I. We married the right guys. They've only shown up even more so in these last years. And their true colors are marry the right guys, girls, is all I have to say. So
Yeah. It's really, I think it's like, it sounds so simple, but it's so complex, because I think there's a lot that goes into it now, especially where you're the perfect example, because you have the family piece and the career, and you didn't compromise on one or the other. And we've talked about this. There was a whole article, I want to say it was in the Wall Street Journal, about the top characteristics of higher earning women. And you check all of the boxes. You're determined, you're disciplined, you have a family. Like, having the career was not at the expense of the kids and the husband. And I think there's been kind of this notion that, especially with affordability being such a conversation now, that women have been like, well, I'm not going to get out of the workforce, and I don't necessarily know how I'm going to balance the two things together to be able to pay for childcare and yada, yada, yada. So, it is interesting for sure.
Yeah. But it's not easy. And but I wouldn't want it any other way. I love it. I also was raised in a family where my mom was the big earner.
That was
and
my next question. Like, are you an entrepreneur, a generational entrepreneur? Do you come from a line of entrepreneurs, or how are you kind of the first of your kind in your family?
Yeah. Well, my dad had a couple businesses himself, and my mom was always that career ladder person that continued to climb and got to the top of her career, but she was the one that traveled the most from my recollection. I know my dad did as well, but I also know that I turned out okay. And I was just with my parents yesterday. I have the most loving relationship with them. I am grateful that they didn't give me everything I wanted. I was always that kid I started working at age 14 and wanted to buy my own kids. And it was, to me, that hunger was created through that. And could they have given me those kids? Absolutely. But they didn't. So I think they just taught me the value of going out. And if you're hungry, go hunt, go work. And that's
Morgan, this must ring true for you, because this is a lot, Lindsay. You and I think we sort of span 3 generations here, right? Me at 60, and you're probably in your 40s.
Yeah. Almost 50. Yeah.
Yeah, and Morgan in her 30s. So we
Correct.
covered this whole mindset. We really and I say this to Morgan, is that like having all this money and being really comfortable is not necessarily the kind of position or mindset that makes you ambitious and a little bit keep your hustle on. And
Right.
Morgan knows this. There are times when she and her brother were growing up, and I was like, "Oh, great, we can go out for dinner." And then there were other times where I was like, "We are home and
That's
we
right.
are cooking dinner, and we don't have, and we would have a new client would come in or something would happen. We would take a victory lap and we would
Yep.
take 10 or
And then
20% of the proceeds, and one of us would be able to go spend it, but the three of us went. Like, we were tied to the business, and it's no wonder, because Morgan, you run a household based on a lot of these same kind of incentives.
Look,
Yeah.
my first business cards were really the most complex, the most sophisticated business cards have ever seen, because I was a mother's helper. I was like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I took the colored paper and I wrote my name, and I, cut the edges so that they looked nice. And then I didn't have a laminator, but I had tape. So I taped the whole thing, and that's what I would give to the neighbors who had kids. And I'd be like, I can stay in your house with your kids and you can do whatever you want, but basically I can just play with them. And that was my first
And
official
by the way,
job.
Did you?
and you
You
got
got a
jobs.
frame in it.
Oh,
We
I
have
still
them.
have them. They're honestly,
Good.
they really are masterpiece, truly.
It's so good. I love
But
it.
I think, so, okay, so you've bootstrapped, you're past any point now where there is no question you are running a successful business.
Mhm.
What have been your mantras along the way, kind of when you've gotten to those points, even, for example, when you were a year in and your husband lost his job and you're still in the early stage of, you can see there that the business has legs, but
Yeah.
you're not necessarily past that green light threshold yet. Like, what would you tell yourself, or what kind of kept you going?
It's the same thing that I do today. And I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but when I hit 40 years old, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar. It was a 5-day seminar. And I went by myself to LA. And essentially what you were trained to do in that point is you're trained to, you basically are mind training to visualize, and you hold on to this idea that things are going to happen and you don't feel the pain in between. So for example, the metaphor is that Tony Robbins does is you walk on fire. And you're walking on this fire. And if you have fear in your head, every step you take, you're going to feel that step. And it's going to be like, oh, my foot's getting a blister. I'm going to hop off this fire. Or my feet are burning. Oh gosh, I don't want to have it be a permanent scar, all that type of things. So that's one mindset. There's the other mindset that says, I'm going to get to that other side. No matter what I fucking do, I'm going to get to the end of that fire and I'm going to get there.
I have to
And
run. If I have to skip,
if I have to run, if I have to do whatever I want to do, I'll get there somehow, but I'm going to get there. And that when you think of that mentality, every step you take, you don't feel a thing. So it's
Right.
like all these bumps, it's a metaphor in this business of things are going to go wrong. Shit is going to get heavy and going to get very uncomfortable. But you always have to begin with that end in mind of where are we going? What are we doing? And where are we going to end up in the end? And we've always done that. We know exactly where we're going because we have that vision. And so every time we have a hiccup, it's like, you know what? We're going to get through that. It's okay. And we're going to divert this way to still stay on our path. So, today I had another example that, that could happen. And it just, I don't even feel it anymore because I know where we're going.
Stay the course. You know that all these factors may come into play, but regardless, you are going to win. You're going to get there, and it may
You
take
figure it
you
out.
more. Yeah, it may take you longer in one area, and some other surprises may happen in a good way, but doesn't matter. We talk about this.
Well, I have a follow-up question, because I'm a big fan of the visualization piece of it. But I don't really think that falls into the meditation piece, because meditation is supposed to calm your mind, and I don't find that to be as effective. I'm like, I don't need my mind to be calm. I need to focus on like what I need to have, on what I need to be done, and I need to figure out how I'm going to get there, at least right now. But then, how do you feel about manifesting and putting things out there? Because they kind of go hand in hand.
Huge manifester. And a great example of that was Gwyneth Paltrow. And I can't remember if I've shared this with you, but when we had this idea of and our price point was going to be higher, I basically said, Christy, Gwyneth Paltrow is going to be our advisor. We're going to be in Goop, and this is going to happen. Like most people looked at me like I was fucking crazy, but I felt it in my bones. I knew it was going to happen, and I just threw it out there. What do you know? Our very first store was Goop. Gwyneth Paltrow became our advisor, and she is still someone who I can just even right now, and she'll get back to me immediately. And so it's that idea of, when you throw it out there, if you don't believe it, if you don't dream of it, it's never going to happen. But if you throw it out there and you reach for the stars, maybe we wouldn't have gotten Gwyneth, but maybe we would have gotten someone else, in that same realm. But everything that we've thrown out there, that we've manifested, it's happened, because there's no other option.
Do you think the manifesting piece is just saying it and making it so? Are you a write it down person and like slide it someplace and like just leave it on your desk? Like, what is I think like the actual practical piece, like if you were to say, from
here's what you could
founder to founder, here's how you'd actually do this. Like, here's what worked for me. What tip would you give somebody?
Make it be visual every day. So I could point you to my wall, but then it would show you some secrets. But I have literally a wall sitting right here of pictures of what we're doing next and where we're going. And like I had that picture of Gwyneth just kind of sitting on my vision board. And it's something that I look at every day, and it reminds me like, okay, what am I doing to get towards that goal? And reminding me that way. And again, not everything comes, but I'll tell you, like one of the recent ones was, there was a store that I was obsessed with in Summerlin, California. It's called Field and Fort. It's the most exquisite home store that they curate things that just incredible store. And I took a pencil from there one time when I was at the store, and I just taped the pencil on our wall. Like, that would be a dream store that AVANT could be in. And it's still on my wall right now because we're there now, and it's one of our best accounts. And I do believe that it's something, if you look at every day, whether that's writing it down in your journal and you go back to it. But to me, I'm a visual person. So just saying it is one thing. I want to lose weight. So I've got a picture of a skinny person sitting on my, but it makes me think like, I'm not going to have those crackers for lunch today. I've got a goal of where I'm going. I worked out this morning for a fucking good reason, and not to eat these crackers. So things like that.
I think on that, if you don't buy it, then you don't eat it. But I agree with you on the other part. If you can see back here is my first Wall Street Journal article about women in the workplace. And I always had the vision and always knew that we would be in the Wall Street Journal and be running kind of a Bloomberg data company. And we sure as shit are. And I've got a few other tricks. I'm more of a sound bowl person. I like to put the crystal in that represents what I'm thinking. Like here, I've got the green sound bowl for the money, right? And so I ring this little sucker. Yes.
Okay. And so do you ring it every day?
I ring that every morning. I sit down and I ring that. And so I like the green for the money. I've got other ones through my apartment that have different symbols, like the yellow for where my parents sleep for the sun. And Morgan I had a mirror that for Morgan when she was
is that your
kid.
gold one? What's that one for?
Morgan's got one too. See?
Yeah, I love it.
Honestly, I'm not the sound person. I don't know what this one does. I just know that Jody gave it to me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to send you can send us some AVANT shit, and I'm going to send you a sound bowl and some crystals because I
Give
think
it to me, baby. I'll take
really
it.
Great. You can put that over there and ring that bell. So
it'll be on my vision wall, and like that's my mantra every morning I come to.
Right. Well, tell us as we're going to wind up a little bit, the recap of your year and what you've got going on going forward. And I know sort of the what's next and how this year has been impactful and what it sets you on the course for.
Yeah. Well, what we've really become known for is these premium products that are not only performative, but they make you feel good. And one of the spaces that we continued to get massive feedback was in our laundry space. So the feedback we were given was, we want more. We want more premium laundry, more detergent, more scents, more specialty. And so we really listened to that. And so as you see us growing, we're not only going to grow through different fragrance collections, we're going to grow through different experiences within laundry. So we've got an incredible stain treatment that's coming out in September. We've got a couple other stain products as well that are going to be coming in that. And then we have some specialty detergents that for certain types of clothes, whether you think of it in your activewear, your cashmere, or your towels. So those are the really exciting things that we have coming out there.
Love that.
Yeah. So
I put
that's
in
when
a
our
request for whatever stain treatment you do because I'm a spiller. I'm an
thing.
eater with my hands, and God forbid I lean over. Everything usually ends up down the front of me. Something that I can travel with, please. A
Yeah,
travel size version of
you
some
got
kind
it.
of, yeah.
No, literally, Jody like takes her clothes out and there's a stain on something. It's just the question of where is the stain and if
Sure.
it's been removed or not. But like she travels with more of these
My
wipes and things
my
because
assistant asked me to please not put I usually I come home, I take something off, I put it away because I'm very like orderly. I don't want it. I can't go to sleep thinking there's a mess. But
What a
now
fun
I can't do
game.
that because it's a mess and I can't see it because I'm tired and I haven't focused. So anyhow, I could really use your help, Lindsay.
You got it. I'll get you vats of it. It's so
Thank
good. It's so
all
good.
right. Well, our last piece of it. So Jody, so then that covers what's next on the business front. What's next on the personal front for you?
So, I can't recall if I shared this with you, but I went through a cancer journey this past year. I haven't shared it with a lot of people. But I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer back in January, and I'm on my healing phases right now. But what it did was I kind of got tapped on the shoulder by God or something and said, you've got limited time here on this earth, and how are you going to use it? And what I needed to really focus on was a little bit more time with my family and really being present with them, putting boundaries around work, which is so hard to do. And that boundary for me, because I could work 24 hours on this, I'd go home and for 2 hours sit down with my kids, and then they'd go to bed, and then I'd be up till 2 a.m. So for me, it was that reset of like, all right, I've got to carve out time for myself to work out. I've got to carve out time for my kids, my husband, myself, and then time for sleep. So since this happened, and I've been back to work maybe about a month and a half now. We're slowly getting there. I can't do it all at once because I can't just change myself overnight, but the working out has really become starting a pattern in my life. Sleep is not there yet, because I can sleep off of 2 hours and be fine and take an Adderall and I'm all good. Um, so, I think it's just slowly putting those boundaries, but I'm really trying to leave work by 5:30. I get into
Yeah.
work usually by 8. And then I'm trying to not be on my phone and computer at night too much. I tell myself, all right, I can do that 2 nights a week. I don't know.
Right.
I've got to find a better system. I'm not there yet, but right now the working out is getting there. So, which is good.
You know what? It's really a true testament because, well, first of all, thank you for sharing because it is
Yeah.
these personal details and all of that. And I think that I'm sure
Yeah.
that there is going to be somebody who listens to it where it resonates with them because it's scary, especially when you do have 3 kids and a family and a business and all of the
Mhm.
things behind. Because at that point, you're like, work what? Like, and it does reshift your priorities because, yes, you obviously love what you do, but being able to step away and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do to take care of myself. It doesn't have to be all accomplished in one day. It
Well,
can
that's
be
what
something.
we've learned this, and I
Yeah.
also share Morgan's sentiment for appreciate that you shared this because you're such a spirit and such a liver and a doer. So you looked at this getting sick and having to deal with something as maybe a side lane off of what the main ramp was, but you get yourself back on here, and your
Right.
family is lucky
It's an
that's the case.
opportunity, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, but we've heard this over and over from many successful women and men that you're not going to do everything that needs to be done all at one time. You have to prioritize because not everything can have 100% of your attention.
Right. It's so true. It's so true. And it goes back to you asking the question of like what keeps you on the track. And I know that where we're going, but I also know that we can still get to that location with me modifying how I am on a day-to-day basis and taking care of myself too and my family. Nothing's better than that. So it's been really cool to just enjoy my kids. I really truly enjoy them even more. I didn't know that I needed that little tap, but it worked. So anyways, it's been good.
I would beg to challenge that you will not only get to all of the destinations that you have on your vision board, but you taking these steps to take care of yourself along the way will make it when you reach that point
Yeah.
so much more fulfilling on a personal level because you did what needed. You made the changes along the way that would allow you to be like the abundance mindset of being there and being like, I did what I needed to do. And the business piece thrived because of it.
I love that. I love that, Maura. I haven't even thought about that, but that's a really great point.
Well, that's a good way to wind up. My Morgan is our spiritual guider here for her young age, all her wisdom. I gotta say, I'm on the firing line with that, like quick fire. And Morgan is the one who's had a different mindset. And then, of course, it was so great to hear yours, Lindsay. We're really appreciative that I text you after all these years and looking at your products, and like you responded right away. So we're really lucky for that. And we're excited to see what's coming on all aspects of your life over the next year.
Thank you, ladies. What a treat.
Thank you for joining us today for the Caplander podcast. If you loved this episode, share it and make sure to subscribe to Caplander for more conversations like this.